You're just a backup plan if my side piece doesn't work out. She laughed. So I permanently deleted myself from her life. Guess who got pumped and dumped and is now legally barred from my property? Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The scent of seared scallops and garlic herb butter should have been the smell of celebration. It was our 3-year anniversary. I'd spent the afternoon prepping, even got the expensive wine she liked, the one with the fancy label that always made her smile. But the air in our apartment was thick with a silence that had nothing to do with the food and everything to do with the ghost sitting at the table with us. Her name was Chloe, and for the past 3 months, she'd been a ghost haunting our relationship. Her body was here, pushing a scallop around her plate, but her mind, her smiles, her everything was somewhere else. On her phone, specifically, which buzzed against the wooden table with the irritating persistence of a trapped fly. I watched her, my own food turning to ash in my mouth. I saw the way her eyes flickered to the screen, the way her thumbs subtly shifted, ready to unlock it. This was it. I couldn't eat another bite of this charade. Chloe, I said, my voice sounding calmer than I felt. The ice in my gut was spreading. We need to talk. She let out a long-suffering sigh, the one I'd become all too familiar with lately. About what, Liam? The food is great. Thank you. It was a dismissal. Not about the food. It's about you. And me. And whatever, or whoever, is on that phone that's so much more interesting than our anniversary. She finally looked up at me, and there was no surprise in her eyes. Just annoyance. Like I was a child interrupting her during important work. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the distance. The secret smiles at your screen. The working late. I took a slow breath, steadying myself. I'm talking about Mark from your office. The name hung in the air between us. I'd said it. The suspicion I'd been carrying like a stone in my chest was now out in the open, tainting the anniversary air. For a second, she looked stunned. Then her face hardened into a mask of contemptuous amusement. She leaned back in her chair, picking up her wine glass. God, Liam, don't be so dramatic. You've been watching too many bad movies. Have I? Then tell me I'm wrong. She took a slow, deliberate sip, her eyes never leaving mine. It was a power move. Fine. You want to know? Yes. Mark and I have been seeing each other. It's fun. He's exciting. It's different. The confirmation was a physical blow, a sucker punch to the soul. I felt the air leave my lungs. 3 years. I'd planned a future with this woman. I'd helped her pay off her credit card debt. I'd held her when her dad was in the hospital. I'd memorized how she took her coffee. And it was all reduced to fun. Different. I repeated, the word numb on my tongue. Look, she said, leaning forward now, her expression turning into one of condescending explanation. You're a great guy, Liam. You really are. Stable. Reliable. You're my foundation. The rock. That's important. Each word was a tiny, precise cut. Stable. Reliable. Synonyms for boring. For safe. For unexciting. But a rock is just something you build on, she continued, a smug little smile playing on her lips. It's not the exciting part of the house. Mark, he's the penthouse. The view. I just stared at her, my mind reeling. The audacity. The sheer, unvarnished entitlement. She must have mistaken my stunned silence for acceptance, because she delivered the killing blow with a light, almost girlish laugh that made my skin crawl. Think of it this way, okay? You're my backup plan. The world seemed to slow down. The ticking of the clock on the wall became a deafening metronome. My backup plan. I managed to whisper. Yeah, she said, as if it was the most logical thing in the world. If things with Mark don't work out, I know you'll be here. You're dependable. It's actually a compliment, when you think about it. I'm planning my future, and you're still in it. Just in a different role. I looked at her, at the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, sitting there, smugly telling me I was her consolation prize. Her plan B. The one she could count on to pick up the pieces when her penthouse view turned out to have a leaky roof. My hand was gripping my fork so tightly my knuckles were bone white. The urge to scream, to flip the table, to shatter the smugness off her face was a roaring fire in my veins. But I didn't. I just shut down. The fire was doused by a wave of absolute, crystalline clarity. I carefully, deliberately, placed my fork down on the table. The soft clink was the only sound in the room. I didn't say a word. I simply pushed my chair back, the legs scraping against the hardwood floor in a final, grating note. I stood up, and I walked away from the table, away from the ruined anniversary dinner, away from the woman who had just told me I was an option. The storm inside me wasn't one of rage anymore. It was the calm, quiet eye of the hurricane. A plan was already forming, cold and precise. The backup plan was about to go offline. Permanently. The bedroom door clicked shut behind me, muffling the oppressive silence of the dining room. For a moment, I just stood there, my back against the cool wood, breathing in the familiar scent of our room, our past room. The air still smelled of her perfume, the vanilla and jasmine I'd once found so intoxicating. Now it just smelled like a lie. My body moved on autopilot, a strange, detached calm settling over me. The roaring in my ears had ceased, replaced by a single, clear directive: erase yourself. I walked to the closet and pulled out my go bag, the durable duffel I used for weekend hiking trips. I didn't need sentimentality. I needed efficiency. I opened drawers, my movements mechanical and precise. Socks, underwear, a stack of t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans. I bypassed the sweaters she'd bought me, the silly novelty shirts we'd gotten on vacation. I was packing for a new life, not a reminiscing tour. The door opened behind me. Chloe stood there, leaning against the frame, her arms crossed. The smugness was gone, replaced by a confused, irritated frown. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice laced with impatience. I didn't look at her. I zipped the duffel closed and moved to the bathroom for my toiletries. Toothbrush, razor, deodorant. I left the cologne she'd given me for my last birthday on the counter. "Liam, seriously? This is so childish. You're just going to run away?" I walked back into the bedroom and set the duffel by the door. Then I went to the dresser. On top sat a small, velvet-lined box. Inside was the promise ring I'd given her on our 1-year anniversary, a simple silver band she'd stopped wearing months ago, claiming it irked her at the gym. I picked it up. It felt cold and insignificant in my palm. "Oh, for God's sake," she scoffed, watching me. "Are you having a little tantrum? It's just sex, Liam. Don't be so insecure. He means nothing." I placed the ring carefully, deliberately, in the exact center of the dresser. A period at the end of our sentence. "It's not just sex," I said, my voice low and flat, still not looking at her. "It's the disrespect. It's you thinking so little of me that you tell me I'm your backup plan." She threw her hands up in the air. "It was a joke. You can't take a joke? This is why I need a real man. You're so sensitive. You get your feelings hurt over everything." I finally turned to face her. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel hurt. I looked at her, the woman I had loved, and I felt nothing. She was a stranger, a noisy, unpleasant stranger in the room that used to be my home. I picked up the duffel bag and slung it over my shoulder. "You'll never find anyone who puts up with you like I do," she spat, her eyes blazing with a fury that was entirely out of place. She was the one who had cheated. She was the one who had been cruel. And yet she was the one who was angry at me for not accepting my designated role. "You'll see. You'll be back in a week, begging for another chance." I reached for the doorknob. I looked her dead in the eye, my expression as unreadable as stone. "There is no backup plan," I said, my voice eerily calm. "The system has been deleted." I opened the door and walked out. I didn't slam it. I didn't look back. I just left it open, a void behind me. I heard her shrill voice chase me down the hallway. "You're making a huge mistake. You're nothing without me, Liam. Nothing." Her words bounced off the new, impenetrable shell around me. They meant less than the hum of the elevator I stepped into. As the doors closed, cutting off the sound of her vitriol, I pulled out my phone. My fingers moved with a swift, practiced ease. I went to my contacts, found her name, and hit block. Then I opened Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. Block. 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 It took less than 60 seconds. By the time I reached the lobby and stepped out into the cool night air, Chloe had been digitally erased from my life. I took a deep breath, the city air filling my lungs, clearing out the last of the vanilla jasmine poison. I didn't know where I was going yet, a hotel, my buddy Dave's couch, but it didn't matter. For the first time in months, I was moving in a direction that was entirely my own. The backup plan was no longer operational. The primary mission was now myself. The first week was a blur of numb functionality. Dave's couch was a sanctuary, A neutral territory that smelled of stale pizza and laundry detergent instead of betrayal. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just existed. I went to work. I answered emails. I attended meetings, all while feeling like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. The world had lost its color, its sound muffled by a thick pane of glass. The silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. It wasn't the peaceful quiet of a lazy Sunday. It was the heavy, oppressive silence of a void where a person used to be. My fingers would instinctively reach for my phone to send a stupid meme or a thinking of you text, only to clutch empty air. The phantom limb of our relationship ached with a constant, dull throb. I'd given up my dream of working remotely from the coast to stay in the city for her career. I'd let friendships fade because she found my friends immature. I saw the sacrifices now not as acts of love, but as withdrawals from a bank account that was already bankrupt. But then, a strange thing started to happen. Around the beginning of the second week, the silence began to change. It was no longer an absence. It became a space. A clean, empty room waiting for me to furnish it with whatever I wanted. I started running. Not from anything, but toward a finish line I set for myself. The burn in my lungs, the ache in my muscles. It was a pain I could control, a pain that meant progress. I re-downloaded the language learning app I'd abandoned because Chloe said it was a waste of time. I started saying yes when my old friends from college asked if I wanted to grab a beer. The first time I genuinely laughed, a real, belly-deep laugh at one of Dave's stupid jokes, it felt like a rebellion. I was no longer Liam, Chloe's boyfriend. I was just Liam. And I was slowly starting to like him. It was during one of these evenings, about a month after the night, that karma sent its first subtle telegram. I was at the gym, focused on my form during a deadlift, when my phone vibrated on the floor. It was a text from Sarah, a mutual friend who had always been more mine than ours. Sarah, hey, you alive? I finished my set, grunting as I lowered the bar, then picked up the phone. Me, more or less. What's up? The three dots bounced. And bounced. She was typing a novel. Sarah, look, I probably shouldn't get involved. But I thought you should know. The Chloe and Mark saga is unfolding. I felt a flicker of something. Not concern, not schadenfreude, just curiosity. Like hearing an update about a dramatic TV show you'd stopped watching. Me, oh yeah? Sarah, yeah? So, she moved in with him pretty much immediately. Into his bachelor pad, which, from her bragging, sounded like a penthouse, but from what I've pieced together, is a studio above a garage in the North End. I didn't respond. I just waited for the next update to load. Sarah, the passion was apparently white-hot for all of 2 weeks. Then the cracks. He was moody. He'd disappear for days. She found out he never actually deleted his dating apps. He told her he wasn't looking for anything serious, and that she was moving too fast. A cold, clean slice of satisfaction cut through me. It wasn't joy at her pain. It was the satisfaction of a scientist watching a predicted chemical reaction occur exactly as outlined. The unstable element had proven itself unstable. Sarah. Anyway, he officially kicked her out last weekend. Said she was too clingy and he needed his space. She's been couch surfing. She showed up at my place yesterday, a complete mess. Crying. Saying he used her, that he was a monster. I looked at the words on the screen. He used her. He was a monster. She was the victim, of course. There was no accountability, only a reassignment of blame from me to him. She hadn't learned a thing. Sarah's final message came through. Sarah, she asked about you. I didn't tell her anything, but I thought you should know the situation. It's a shit show. I stood there in the buzzing fluorescence of the gym, the metallic clangs and grunts around me fading into the background. I pictured Chloe, homeless, humiliated, her grand upgrade, revealed as a catastrophic downgrade. I searched my soul for any shred of sympathy, any urge to rescue her. I found nothing, just a vast, quiet emptiness where she used to be. My fingers typed a reply. Me, okay. I sent it. A single, neutral, terminal word. It wasn't, I'm sorry to hear that. It wasn't, that's awful. It was just, okay. An acknowledgement of information received and filed away under, no longer my concern. I put my phone back in my pocket, grabbed the barbell, and loaded on more weight. The strain was immense, but it was honest. It was real. Unlike the drama unfolding in my past, this weight I could lift. This pain I could use. I was building a new foundation, and this one was made of steel, not sand. Chloe's world was unraveling, and the only thing I felt was the profound, liberating peace of my own irrelevance to it all. The dam broke 2 days after my conversation with Sarah. The first attempt was a text from an unknown number. I was in my new apartment, a sleek, modern one-bedroom in a building with a concierge and a keycard-operated elevator, unpacking the last of my boxes. Unknown number. Hey Liam, it's Chloe. I'm so sorry. I made a huge mistake. Can we please talk? The message felt like a relic from another lifetime. There was no anger, no pain, just a mild, clinical curiosity. I didn't hesitate. I selected the number and tapped block. The action was as routine as deleting spam. I then placed the phone face down and continued hanging my frames, the geometric lines of the art a soothing contrast to the chaotic scrawl of her words. The silence lasted a week. Then, my work phone rang. I rarely gave that number out, but she'd obviously looked it up. I let it go to voicemail. An hour later, I checked the message. Her voice was a wobbly, tear-streaked mess. Liam, please. I'm nothing without you. He used me and threw me away. You were right about everything. I'm so alone. Please, just call me back. I need to hear your voice. There was a time when that brokenness would have shattered me. I would have dropped everything to fix her. Now it was just noise. I deleted the voicemail and cleared the deleted items folder. Digital bleach. The next attempt came through a flying monkey. Her best friend, Jessica, a woman whose personality I'd always found as pleasant as a root canal, called my personal cell. Liam, hey, she began, her tone artificially sweet. Listen, I know things ended badly, but Chloe is really, really suffering. She's learned her lesson, you know? Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her? She's a good person who made a bad choice. I held the phone away from my ear for a second, almost impressed by the sheer lack of original thought. Her choices are no longer my concern, I said, my voice flat and final. But I hung up. The click of the call ending was immensely satisfying. Then came the ambush. I was returning from a late dinner with a couple of guys from my new building. As I approached the lobby doors, a figure detached itself from the shadows. Chloe. She looked terrible. Her hair was greasy, pulled into a messy bun, and she was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie I didn't recognize. The ghost of the polished, smug woman from our anniversary dinner was long gone. Liam, she called out, her voice shrill. I stopped, but didn't close the distance between us. The 10 feet of sidewalk between us felt like a mile-wide moat. Please, we need to talk, she pleaded, her eyes wide and desperate. We don't, I said, and moved to walk past her. She stepped in front of me, blocking my path. I said I was sorry. What more do you want from me? Do you want me to beg? Is that it? Her voice was rising, attracting the attention of a couple across the street. I want you to leave me alone. You were supposed to be there for me, she shrieked, the mask of desperation cracking to reveal the fury beneath. That was your job. You're my boyfriend. I haven't been your boyfriend since you told me I was your backup plan. I replied, my tone still dangerously calm. Her use of the present tense was unhinged. You're a cold, heartless bastard, she spat, her face contorted with a rage so pure it was almost impressive. I hate you. Do you hear me? I hate you for this. I didn't flinch. I just looked at her, this screaming, pathetic stranger on the street, and felt nothing but a profound need for her to be gone. I sidestepped her, walked into my building, and approached the concierge desk. David, I said to the man on duty, nodding toward the door. The woman outside. Her name is Chloe Matthews. She is not a resident, and she is not to be allowed in, under any circumstances. David, a professional in his 60s, gave a curt nod. Understood, Mr. Evans. I didn't look back as I walked to the elevator. The last thing I heard was the muffled sound of her screaming my name from the other side of the glass doors before they sealed shut. The ambush should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The incident outside the building had been a catalyst for her unraveling. Over the next week, she escalated. She started showing up at all hours, yelling my name from the street until David threatened to call the police. She left handwritten notes on my car, rambling, tear-stained missives that swung from professing undying love to accusing me of destroying her life. It was no longer a nuisance, it was harassment. It was a threat to the peace I had fought so hard to build. My response was not emotional. It was procedural. I went down to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. I provided the text from the unknown number, a log of the voicemail, the notes I'd saved from my car. The judge, reviewing the evidence of her escalating, unwanted contact, granted a temporary order. A process server delivered the papers to her at her mother's house, where she was now staying. The silence that followed was blissful. For about 10 days. Then, on a rainy Friday night, my intercom buzzed. I was on the couch, reading a book, the city lights blurred and beautiful through the rain-streaked glass. I walked over and pressed the button. Yes, it was David. Mr. Evans, my apologies for the disturbance. She's back. She's insistent, and she appears to be intoxicated. I've informed her of the order, but she refuses to leave. I could hear her wailing in the background. Liam, please. I love you. A cold, sharp clarity settled over me. This ended tonight. Permanently. David, call the police. Tell them an individual subject to a restraining order is trespassing and refusing to leave. I'll speak to her through the intercom until they arrive. Right away, sir. I took a deep breath and pressed the button for the external speaker. Chloe, I said, my voice echoing slightly through the system. The wailing stopped. Liam? Baby, let me up. I need to see you. The police are on their way. I stated, my tone as flat and factual as a news report. A beat of silence, then a sob. You called the cops on me? How could you? You are a trespasser, I said, each word a brick being laid in a wall between us. A nuisance. You are nothing to me. The sob turned into a gasp of pure, undiluted hatred. You bastard. You miserable, selfish bastard. After everything I've been through, you were my backup. You were supposed to be there. And there it was. The unvarnished truth. Her entitlement, laid bare. In her mind, my sole purpose was to wait in reserve for the moment her poor decisions blew up in her face. I felt a smile, thin and cold, touch my lips. The irony was too perfect to ignore. You thought you were upgrading from a backup plan to a real man, I said, the words dripping with a final, contemptuous dismissal. Looks like you downgraded to a restraining order. The irony is almost poetic. There was no coherent response from the other end. Just a guttural, enraged scream that was cut off as I released the intercom button. I walked back to my window. Below, 2 police cars pulled up, their lights painting the wet street in flashes of blue and red. I watched as the officers approached her. I saw her gesticulating wildly, pointing up at my building. One of the officers held up a copy of the restraining order. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. They led her, not gently, to the back of a squad car. She didn't look up at my window. She was just a sad, small figure being swallowed by the system she had provoked. I stood there until the police car drove away, its lights fading into the night. The street was quiet again, just the soft patter of rain washing everything clean. I turned away from the window. The chapter of Chloe was not just closed. It had been legally sealed, archived, and incinerated. She was now a non-person in my world, a violation of a court order, a blip of data in a police report. I picked up my book, found my page, and sat back down. A deep, unshakable peace settled over me. I was free, not just from her, but from the man I had been with her, the loyal, committed, undeservedly mistreated backup plan. That man was gone. In his place was someone stronger, someone who protected his peace with the quiet, unyielding force of the law. And he was just getting started. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.